Hello, and welcome to a whole new kind of true crime on YouTube. This is Soul vs. Shadow, the Empath Profiles. I'm one of the world's top empaths, and I've given tens of thousands of readings to clients around the globe. But my purpose for this channel is not at all to self-promote my business. I will not even be revealing my actual name until October 31st, 2024. This gives me about 3 years to demonstrate that the true purpose for this channel is to center around the victims of some of the world's most notorious crimes. Unlike a lot of YouTubers out there, I am not going to be shamelessly asking you to subscribe and ring the bell for my own agenda. Instead, I ask you to subscribe and share these videos for the sake of the victims that these videos are about. Many cold cases become cold over time due to the lack of publicity and attention to the case in question. Not every case gets the attention it needs in order to get the resources, time, or tips necessary to be solved. I invite you to join my quest to stand up for the souls who need it the most. Whether missing or deceased, the families and friends of the victims deserve to know the answer to what happened. If my channel can someday somehow contribute to bringing justice to just one killer or help find one missing person, or even to bring closure to one grieving family, I will consider this channel to be a true success. But I cannot do this by myself, but only with the help of the interested and compassionate subscribers who I invite to join me in creating a community to fight back against the shadows that plague our society. For each video, I will be presenting the published facts and respected theories to the case, but I will also profile the case from an empath's perspective and give my own insight onto what might have actually happened. The first case I'm going to cover is the one I feel needs the most immediate and urgent attention today. This is an extremely terrible situation that's ongoing right now, and it's far from being a cold case. This is the disappearance of Gabby Petito. As I begin, please keep in mind that this is a still developing news story. The details I share are to my best knowledge as to what I have researched, and in the news up until now, this is what's been going on. So this could very well change at some point as the police do learn more. So the fateful road trip for 22-year-old Gabby Petito begins with her boyfriend Brian on July 2nd, 2021. Just several months ago, Gabby and Brian departed from her hometown of Blue Point, New York, in her white 2012 Ford Transit van. The trip started out wonderfully, with Gabby publicly sharing her and her boyfriend's cross-country travels on social media. Her Instagram shows a beautiful, free-spirited young woman who's enjoying life and adventure and stopping at various national parks in the United States. On July 5th, the first Instagram picture from this road trip is posted at Monument Rocks Natural Landmark in Kansas. You can see her genuine happiness in this photo. It looks like this should be the trip of a lifetime that she's documenting. Throughout July, she posts other pictures from places her and Brian travel, such as in Colorado Springs and Zion National Park in Utah. I noticed some pictures come across as being staged, like for a photo shoot, versus being more natural and in the moment. This in itself is not a real issue considering all the bloggers out there that have a more professional style. However, I did notice some possibly telling body language in this photo of her and Brian. You can see how he is more forceful in grabbing her in a vulnerable area around her face and neck. Her energy is much more restrained, like she is wanting to put up a barrier and is subconsciously wanting distance from him. You can see her pose is more stiff, her hand is on his arm, a less threatening spot than the face or neck, and this could easily turn into her pulling his arm off of her if she wanted to escape his grip. Brian's energy feels much more intense, dominating and into the pose for this photo. Gabby just feels uncomfortable to me here. If I knew nothing about this couple and was just analyzing the picture alone, I would read Brian as a possibly possessive partner who wants to take control of Gabby, but only one picture can tell us so much. On July 30th, Gabby and Brian reach Canyonlands National Park in Utah. There is a period of silence on her social media with no new activity until August 12th. Gabby shares photos of her and Brian in Arches National Park, which is also in Utah. Some major cracks start to come to the surface for this relationship on this day. In Moab, Utah, which is right outside Arches National Park, the police receive a 911 call from a third party about the couple. The couple had gotten into an altercation, and Brian tried to lock Gabby out of her van and threatened to leave her in Moab. She was naturally distraught, and the situation escalated with at least Gabby getting physical with Brian. The police body cam footage shows Brian behind the wheel of the van and Gabby in the passenger seat. I got some red flags in viewing the body cam footage. For one, I noticed right away Gabby takes the fall and blames herself when the police ask Brian why he went over the curb. She tells the police that it was her fault because she was distracting him. She also admits that Brian did hit her when she's talking to the police privately, yet this seems to get glossed over and forgotten. When Brian is questioned by the police separately from Gabby, I did see him trying to talk his way out of any wrongdoing, and does give socially desirable answers to police officers, while he's also blaming Gabby for being the one to cause the situation. He uses phrases like, "she got worked up," and "she grabbed the wheel," as well as making himself sound like the responsible one by saying he told her they needed to take a break till things cooled down. I highly doubt that Gabby was acting out hysterically in the van, while he was remaining calm and telling her to sit back and breathe. I actually believe the physical scuffle was probably more mutual than what came across to the police, due to how Gabby's being more submissive and blaming herself for the problems that come up, versus blaming Brian. Another indicator is that the police noticed marks on Brian's hands, which I'm guessing stood out as something he possibly could have received if he was getting physical with Gabby himself, and not just reacting as calmly as he reports. Brian is quick to say that the scratch came from a wire, which the police officer did not sound as if he bought it too much. He questioned that it came from a wire, and asking him to repeat himself. The body cam footage ends with the police questioning Gabby to determine whether they should arrest her or not for hitting Brian. I feel the cops did not see Gabby as a true threat to Brian, and even though they document in the report that she hit Brian, they do not end up arresting her. Hindsight is 20/20, but I do question if maybe this entire disappearance of Gabby could have been avoided if she had been arrested and forced apart from Brian in a more harsh manner. However, we must keep in mind that even in the most dysfunctional or abusive relationships, if a couple is not truly ready to break up, then even getting arrested for domestic battery will not be enough to truly force them apart, especially once they bond out and just run right back to one another. On August 24th, Gabby and Brian check out of their hotel in Salt Lake City, Utah. Gabby's mother did talk to her through FaceTime as the couple left the hotel, which is the last time she was seen by her family. The next day is Gabby's last phone call to her family on August 25th. She tells her family that she's in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. This is also where she is last reported to be physically seen in person. Her final Instagram photos are posted on this day, which show her in Ogden, Utah in front of the Monarch mural. While this is more of a photo shoot type of feel for these photos, I actually did not get anything negative off of her body language energy in the final shots of her. It feels to me that this is disconnected from the reality of the situation, as there are no clues in these photos of the chaos yet to come. Friends of hers say that there is something off about the way that these pictures are posted, like it is not truly her that's posting these shots. In addition, it is interesting to note that Gabby typically used the location tagging feature when posting on Instagram, yet she did not in her final two posts. Also, it's noted that her hair color is a brighter blonde compared to her prior posts. Evidence suggests that these photos were not taken on August 25th and that the post was not made by Gabby, but most likely Brian instead. If all of this is true, we can estimate that something went seriously wrong on August 25th, and that Brian is the only one who knows what that something is. On August 30th are Gabby's last texts from her cell phone. Her last text to her mother states that she's not getting any cell phone service in Yosemite National Park, which is in California. Her family suspects that Gabby did not write this text herself. I'm guessing that the language or texting style that was used does not match how Gabby would normally communicate. For example, if she normally were to use punctuation but the text she sent didn't have any, it would be an indicator that she didn't really write that text. There also could be just her mother's intuition picking up that something is wrong and that she's not buying that Gabby wrote the last text herself. There is just no physical evidence to support that the couple was in Yosemite. With all this in mind, I believe the texts that her family got on August 30th and right before were very likely sent by Brian as a form of stalling and buying himself time. He did not want her family to realize anything was wrong. On September 1st, Brian comes home to his parents' house in Northport, Florida. He's driving Gabby's van, but Gabby is not with him. My first major problem, other than Gabby not being with him, is how did he make a 40-hour-plus drive when they were supposedly in Yosemite just 2 days before he returns to Florida? It seems like a fair assumption that he was not truly in Yosemite. Gabby's family is used to her going off the grid sometimes and not talking for a few days in a row. But as the days wear on and there is nothing heard from Gabby's end, her family becomes increasingly worried and skeptical of Brian. He is not communicating with her parents and is certainly not indicating where she might be. Brian refuses to give up even the most simplest of details, such as where he last saw Gabby or where he thinks she could be. On September 11th, Gabby's family files a missing persons report to the police. The police then show up that night to Brian's parents' house where he is staying. But instead of offering even 1% cooperation to the police, Brian's parents hand the police his lawyer's phone number. He hasn't even seen the police himself yet, and he's already lawyered up. Despite Gabby's family's pleas, Brian continues to refuse to talk to the police, who have named him as a person of interest. Right now, there is no physical evidence that a crime has occurred. All we do know for sure is that Gabby has been gone since August 25th, and the authorities are building their case. I was about to record this case when a major update occurred on September 17th. It was discovered that Brian was not actually hiding at his parents' house anymore. Brian's attorney released a statement that Brian is missing and his parents do not know where he is. The police went inside Brian's parents' house and were not able to locate him. The police are considering this to now be a multiple missing persons investigation since there is still no physical evidence that Brian has committed a crime at this point. At the time of me recording this, authorities are still searching for Brian's whereabouts, so if anyone out there knows where Brian is at, please contact law enforcement. Since he returned to his parents' house on September 1st, he has had weeks to prepare to go on the run. I am sure he is using his family's resources to help him stay off the radar. I even assume that his family knows his plan, even if they do not know his exact location. While his family is saying that Brian is missing, let's be reminded that it is Gabby who is truly the missing one here, and Brian is hiding and on the run. Brian's strange behavior and how he has handled this situation is in itself the most telling that something seriously went wrong during this road trip. This is a couple who has been dating since 2018. There is no innocent situation I can think of where a person would react as Brian has. If he had nothing to do with this disappearance, how would he know to drive straight home and lawyer up? He wouldn't. I can't recall another well-known case where someone has so blatantly dodged the police, hid behind a lawyer and parents, and won't give the victim's family the time of day. For this part of the video, let's keep in mind that no arrests have yet been made, and that this video is entirely my own opinion based off my experience, knowledge, and what facts are available out there right now. So what happened to Gabby? My analysis of this case suggests that Brian most likely does know where Gabby is, and that this is a foul play situation. Unfortunately, it is very likely that he did physically harm Gabby. When I profile Brian, I get that he likely did not start this road trip from hell with the intention to murder Gabby. However, this is a toxic couple that did not benefit from being stuck together so long during the road trip. Tension built up as the road trip wore on. I feel it is safe to guess that the altercation on August 12th was not their only one during this trip, but the only one that got the police's attention. I speculate that Brian and Gabby got into another altercation on August 25th that led to her untimely death. I do feel that physical aggression was not uncommon between them, especially during the last month of their relationship, and it escalated past the point of no return on the 25th. Likely Brian lost self-restraint while they were arguing, he snapped and possibly choked her to death or caused some sort of significant injury that she was not treated for. After this, it is very likely that Brian freaked out and did whatever he could to cover his tracks. He probably hid the body not too far from where their last fight occurred. I think Brian knows he screwed up, so he wanted to get as far away as he can from the scene of the crime. He made a beeline all the way back home to Florida to spend what time he could with his family. He lawyers up to protect himself and postpone the inevitable arrest that is certainly coming. He is 110% only looking at the situation from his own point of view, and it's an incredibly selfish person to not cooperate with the police at all in a situation like this. I do not feel that there are other suspects involved in this case, just Brian, and it's an entirely domestic situation. If Brian wasn't so narcissistic, this likely would have been a murder-suicide type of story. However, he is currently doing anything and everything he can to save himself for as long as he can. He probably has a misguided viewpoint where he is a victim somehow in all of this versus the villain. If he ever eventually does talk to the police, I would not be surprised if the language he uses deflects blame back to Gabby versus himself taking responsibility for any crimes he has committed. For example, he may say that she attacked him and he had to defend himself from her. With how his parents are defending him, it seems that they raised quite the narcissist that we see today. For those that say maybe an accident happened, such as even Gabby falling to her death on her own somehow and Brian just freaking out and assuming that he would be blamed so he ran home, it does not make any sense that someone so composed and trying to handle the police on August 12th would suddenly lose complete composure to the point of making himself look so bad for something he did not truly do. Instead, he is acting as if he has something to hide on the largest scale possible. Innocent people have no reason to run. I really hope I am wrong and that Gabby is alive and safe somewhere, or even that Brian did nothing wrong, but all evidence suggests the contrary to me. My final prediction is that Brian will stay on the run as long as he can until he runs out of resources, gets too mentally or physically exhausted, or ends up getting cornered. He could possibly commit suicide at this point when the walls finally close in. However, this would only be because he does not want to spend the rest of his life in jail, not over guilt for what he did to Gabby. He values his own life over that of others, so I don't think he's going to start doing the right thing and willingly cooperate and turn himself in anytime soon. There are ways that you can help Gabby's family. First and most importantly, if you feel you have first-hand information that can help authorities solve this case, please contact the Suffolk County Police Department at 1-800-220-8477. The police do not need rumors or speculation to waste their time, but any helpful tips, especially from eyewitnesses that actually saw Brian or Gabby themselves around the time she went missing, could be valuable. If you happen to see Brian while he's on the run, call the police immediately. Perhaps seeing this video and pictures of the couple will help jog someone's memory to come up with the tip that can help find Gabby. So something you can do right now is to please share this video to help get the word out about this missing young woman. We are getting closer to the 1-month mark that she will be unaccounted for, and I can only imagine what her loved ones must be experiencing in this family's worst nightmare. Her family has a GoFundMe to help with the investigation and expenses that the family is incurring at this time. If you are in the position to spare any money to support this cause and would like to make a donation, I have the link in the video description. Finally, if you would like to stay informed of future true crime cases that could benefit from your awareness, please subscribe to this channel. I ask not for my sake, but for the sake of the victims and their families. Thank you for watching, and I pray you stay safe from the shadows of this world. Until next time.